What is up guys, Deadset here. PTR for patch 2.1 is finally out and our first taste of competition is ready to be sampled with greater rifts. Ladders are still unavailable, but I'm sure they will be pretty soon. Until then, I will be testing all the high torment builds for Crusaders in greater rifts. Today's video is going to be dedicated to the performance of the Firestarter build, a very popular one as I'm sure you know. Check out my impressions. As far as gear and build are concerned, nothing significant has changed compared to the video I made on the Firestarter build. The only difference in the demonstration compared to the original video is the change of the charged up rune of Provoke to Too Scared to Run, which is a more defensive choice. I did that because from the start I anticipated the problems in higher difficulty levels that I will talk about in the playstyle part of the video. It is important to note that since this is the first build I try out in a competitive environment after I patched my client, I have not replaced my belt. It is still the Harrington Waistguard in the demonstration, which is the best in slot belt for regular rifts, but greater rifts lack any containers, and thus the unique proc of the Harrington never comes into play. I would be better off using pretty much any other belt. However, I will be on the lookout for a Vigilante belt, which was previously an instant salvage, but has been changed to be able to roll cooldown reduction, turning it into a strong candidate for the best in slot title for Crusaders. Another interesting option that emerged with patch 2.1 is the opportunity to use a Blackthorn belt and amulet, since they have also been changed and are able to roll all the desirable affixes and provide you with a set piece boost to tankiness and damage. Hellcat Waistguard is another fine option with attack speed and damage against elites, and of course the eternal favorite Witching Hour, which if you possess will make for a very good DPS boost. A piece of good news that is worth pointing out is that patch 2.1 is the first significant patch after 2.05 and keeps the Firestarter rune of Akarat's champion as it was introduced in the last major patch. The damage over time effect still stacks, providing you with one of the strongest dots in the game. This should be a huge relief for any fire-based Crusader that had doubts about the future of the build. I personally had my doubts that they would keep it as it is, but it seems Blizzard are fine with the trade-off of survivability of Prophet for the damage potential of Firestarter. As an added bonus, the screen shake of Fist of Heavens is no longer present. Fire Crusaders will now have a very serene and precise experience of dropping pillars of fire from the sky. It was really strange for me at first, but I quickly learned to appreciate how easy it is to aim your Fist of Heavens, make judgments about your positioning, keep an eye out on the Darklight procs, all sorts of nice optimization things. It does feel a bit less powerful when the screen doesn't shake from the sheer impact of Fist of Heavens, but let's be honest here, it gets old after a while and practically unbearable if you're a bunch of Crusaders using the same build. One last thing to note about the builds in Greater Rifts is that you cannot afford to drop your mobility skill. The number of monsters in Greater Rifts is good, but you can still get levels where the density is less than ideal, and I actually believe now that this is an intended design choice to make mobility skills just as desirable for competitive rifting as defensive and damage skills. At this point, as a Crusader, I would not consider dropping Steed Charge as a viable choice in Greater Rifts. Let's talk about the playstyle a bit. If you're used to the build and gear setup, you'll be just fine in patch 2.1. Of course, you'll have to keep in mind that looking out for containers to boost your DPS in Greater Rifts is no longer a viable strategy, but this will come in time as you adjust to not wearing the Harrington Waistguard. It is important to note that Greater Rifts restrict switching gear and build, so you have to teleport to town and waste a bit of time to make whatever changes you have in mind. This also means that hot swapping to Nemesis Bracers for bonus elites or immunity amulets for particular elites is not possible in competitive rifting. In my opinion, the only time when it is reasonable and actually beneficial for your timing to switch out gear is when you face the Rift Guardian. You'll see me do so for the Rift Guardian in the demonstration. I will switch out to a poison immunity amulet to nullify the damage. Whether swapping gear and build by teleporting to town is a mechanic that will remain in its current form remains to be seen. It can become more restrictive by not allowing you to swap anything unless you complete the rift or leave the game, or it can become more lenient. We shall see. For now, it is advisable to keep the teleporting to town to once or twice, whether to switch to a furnace or to an amulet that will render the particular boss harmless, so that you keep your downtime to a minimum. Because keep in mind, the clock is ticking. You cannot afford to die over and over in softcore or keep teleporting back in hardcore. You have to push on. With my first attempt on display in the demonstration, I got the Firestarter Crusader solo to Greater Rift level 30, reaching 80% completion before my time ran out. Not ideal for a strong build as this one, but still respectable for something I have never tried before. With some additional preparation and gearing up, I believe I can push it to about level 32. I do believe that this will be the ceiling for a solo Firestarter Crusader. I could be wrong, but this build sort of tops out at the Torment 6-7-ish difficulty. Your damage is still fine, you kill things reasonably fast for the timer, but the survivability is simply not there in a build without Prophet. Perhaps a well-rolled Hellfire Amulet will open up more defensive options for me, or some defensive option is not popping up in my head at this moment, but for now it seems Firestarter will get you to about level 30 plus minus 2 difficulty levels. Well, this is it from me. As you can see, the Firestarter Crusader is still rocking it in patch 2.1 and performs really well in Greater Rifts. With some additional defensive optimization, I believe I can reach a bit further, but jumping from 0 to level 30 in a single attempt is nothing to scoff at. Tomorrow we continue testing Greater Rift performance. Next up is the Holy Shotgun. I'm really looking forward to testing the other top tier build in the Crusader arsenal, especially considering it can run Prophet with almost no drawbacks and will be the tankier option from the get-go. If you liked what you saw, I would appreciate your subscription to my channel. Keep in touch with the Twitter and Facebook that I linked below. I leave you with the Rift Guardian fight on level 27, which was the last one I completed within the time frame, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.
To go back.